is WNBF News at 6.
Good evening to you. I'm Christelle Bell.
And I'm Michael Maley. This is what we're working on for you tonight at WNBF News at 6.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Amy Arnold live in Conway, where the Waccamaw River is in major flood stage and still slowly rising.
And I'm Amy Littman, here to explain why some who live on the river are choosing to stay.
I'm live in Lumberton, where record high river levels are set to stay this way for days. I'll show you what that means for the people that live here.
And I'm Ken Baker, live in Marion County, where rising water has forced entire communities to be evacuated.
I'm Lisa Greshy in Myrtle Beach to show you what people here are dealing with just 2 days after Hurricane Matthew.
I'm Dan Fanning in Conway to explain how Hurricane Matthew has drastically changed the high school football schedule.
I'm Eric Traphagen, and I'm live in North Myrtle Beach, where Santee Cooper is working power to thousands of people.
And I'll show you what people are doing to live without power.
And we have the very latest on recovery from the governor's office, but we want to start in Conway, where we find Chief Meteorologist Jamie Arnold. He is there because the biggest threat facing our area now is river flooding. Jamie?
Yeah, it certainly is, and unfortunately we're back to the situation we were a year ago to the day almost here along the Waccamaw River in Conway. This is Riverside Drive in Conway, and the Waccamaw River is currently in major flood stage. It came very quickly, rose very quickly during the day Saturday, continued Saturday night into Sunday, and here we are on Monday. And notice the river now 15.1 feet, slowly forecast to rise to 16 feet as we head through the end of the week. Now, the good news about the forecast is that it is not going to be higher than last October. That was the initial forecast, that it would go over last October's levels. It looks like it'll be very similar to those levels at this point and still staying below the levels reached from Hurricane Floyd back in 1999. However, not the case for Longs. In fact, in Longs, the river is forecast to reach levels higher than it did during Hurricane Floyd in 1999, and that crest comes as we head towards Wednesday and Thursday. So again, we're talking about prolonged impacts all across our area. The Lumber River, of course, breaking a record crest in uncharted territories there along the Lumber River in Robeson County, and actually forecast to rise even more, over 4 feet above flood stage by Thursday and into the day on Friday. Amy, I know you've been out here all day today, folks coming and going here along the river, but still some challenges, even though somewhat used to it out here, still some challenges being faced this year.
Since they are used to it, some families are choosing to stay, but others, as you and I have both seen here, Jamie, since the show started at 4 o'clock earlier today, we had a family pull up in a boat here. They told us they were leaving because they don't have power. They chose to stay last year during the October flooding, but since they don't have power this year, they're leaving. I saw the same thing this morning, and that's just going on all over the Waccamaw River. You can see here on Riverside Drive, this is what it looks like leading up to the flooding as people anchor their boats, park their cars along the dry part of the street so they can get to where they need to go, bring supplies back and forth to their houses. South Carolina Department of Natural Resources Sergeant Nate Hudson says agents evacuated a few people between Pitch Landing and Savannah Bluff earlier today. Last October, they went door to door and kept inventory of exactly which homes were still occupied and who evacuated. But Hudson says that kind of task is difficult to do this year with so much else going on. He says agents are doing 24-hour Riverside patrols and are available for whatever people need. Some say the only reason they would leave is if the water makes it so they can't stay inside anymore.
If the water gets as high or higher, it's just going to make it a little more difficult without the power. But we will still stick it out as long as we don't get into the main house, and then we'll be forced to evacuate.
The South Carolina Department of Probation, Parole, and Pardon is helping DNR agents out, and the goal for those DNR agents is to remember exactly who the families are in these flooded communities along the Waccamaw, so they know exactly who should and shouldn't be here. Reporting live in Conway, Amy Littman, WNBF News.
Thank you so much, Amy. Rivers swollen from heavy rains from Hurricane Matthew are creating dangerous situations in Lumberton. Hundreds of people have left their homes and businesses behind as the Lumber River has risen 4 feet over its record level. WNBF News anchor Caitlin Stansel is live there to show us what rescue crews are doing to get people out safely.
Earlier reports had suggested that those rising river levels had breached a levee along the Lumber River. But what actually had happened was that the water was just so high west of Interstate 95 that it moved south of that levee and is infiltrating areas like the back swamp where we're live here right now. Now, rescue crews have been working all day to get people out of their homes along the Lumber River. These crews coming from all over the area and even other states, including Pennsylvania. And to help, crews and helicopters were working to spot stranded homeowners. The airspace over Lumberton had to be restricted to make sure that there was no interference with the work from those choppers that were involved in this rescue mission. The governor of North Carolina also asking people with drones not to fly over the area. We're told at least 1,500 people have had to leave their homes behind because of the rising waters from the Lumber River.
It was very scary. Matter of fact, we got out Saturday, because it was coming up so fast on my porch. Me and my family got out, But I took just enough medicine with me, thinking that everything will be good today. But I still have to go back in, get somebody to go in today and get the rest of my medication and some clothes to put on.
Now, if you live around this area or you need to get through Lumberton, just know that Interstate 95 is still closed for much of the area between Lumberton and Four Oaks. The governor is also asking that tourists avoid using Interstate 95 to get through North Carolina. And another thing to know is that there is a lot of traffic. Crews are working to funnel these drivers through detours. So if you are traveling through this area, just be prepared to sit and wait a little bit. Live in Lumberton, Caitlin Stansel for WMBF News.
All right, Caitlin, thank you. Tens of thousands of people in our area still without power after Hurricane Matthew. Eric Traphagen is live in North Myrtle Beach, where Santee Cooper has crews working around the clock to restore power. Eric?
Yeah, I'm in North Myrtle Beach right now, where a couple of crews, I don't know if you can see behind me, are working to restore power. I'm in a heavily wooded area where everywhere you look around there are trees and debris fallen on power lines. Residents here told me that this is the path where a water spout came from the ocean, and you can clearly see the path that it took. It's just over here to my left. There's fallen trees and limbs just ripped off of the trees. Now, officials from Santee Cooper say that they are working around the clock to try to restore power. Susan Mungo of Santee Cooper says that they have 900 people working around the clock. They estimate that they should have power back to people by Friday evening, and between now and then, they'll be making hourly progress. They say at the height of the storm, there were about 130,000 customers without power, but right now, that number is as low as 33,000 customers without power. So while several thousand people are still without power, Santee Cooper and electric companies throughout the area are working around the clock to have that restored as quickly as possible. Live in North Myrtle Beach, I'm Eric Traphagen, WMBF News.
All right, thanks so much, Eric. And I, too, spoke with Santee Cooper officials today. They tell me what they've done is staggered shifts, so crews will be working 24 hours a day. Those crews are actually spread out sporadically so that they can work quickly to get power back on. Meanwhile, neighbors in areas like Carolina Forest are still trying to make do without power. Trying to get back to normalcy is hard when you don't have power.
We got power back for about a half an hour and it went right back out, which was uncomfortable. We have a generator, but we unhooked everything from it and the power went back out.
For nearly 3 days, Tina Lewandowski and her family have been roughing it without electricity.
I lost everything in our freezer, a lot of stuff in the fridge. So, yeah, we lost just about everything.
Without power, her neighbors have found creative ways to improvise.
Luckily for us, we have a hybrid car so that when our technology did kind of start going down, we could plug it into our car and recharge it.
Kathy and John Barron say their car helped them weather the storm.
Well, actually, right now it's running, but you can't even hear it. When the battery charges itself from the friction on the brakes, and it uses very little gas, so we made sure that we filled up before the storm.
The couple told me they also heated up their hot tub before the storm to make sure they had hot water. Power crews are working all day and night, nonstop, to get everyone back to normal.
We are getting as many crews here as we can because we know it's important for people to get their power. We know it's frustrating when you don't have it, and we want everybody working on it that can.
Lewandowski says she worries about not having power when she has to go back to work.
It's hard to get back to normal when you have nothing that you're used to, no power, no electricity.
And some devastating images coming in as the evacuation of the town of Nichols comes to an end. Ken Baker is live there now. He's been speaking to those who say they feared for their lives as they watched the floodwaters rise. Ken?
Yeah, Michael, people who live in the Nichols community tell me that they are tight-knit. Now get this, law enforcement tells me that right now people are refusing to still leave this area. Now I spoke with some flood victims, people who live here, and they tell me that the PD and Lumber Rivers rose so quickly. One woman I spoke to tells me that this morning the water was at her waist. Then by 2 o'clock this afternoon, it was totally over her head. In total, Governor Nikki Haley tells us 150 people were rescued. Now, the flood victims tells me that even last October, they were able to drive to safety. This year, they're actually having to boat to safety. Reporting in Marion County, I'm Ken Baker for WMBF News.
Yeah, we still have a lot of water headed into those rivers. What we don't need is more rain, and luckily, really not seeing any over the next couple of days, expecting it to look pretty similar to this, maybe a few extra clouds tomorrow, but the rain risk looking very low. And again, that's exactly what we need at this point. Look at the radar. Nice clear scan tonight. Likely going to stay that way. Temperatures, though, getting a little bit cooler. That's the story that we didn't talk about much. We were focused on Matthew, but actually a pretty nice shot here of some fall-like weather. We still see some gaps in here in the data, so still some areas without power. Getting a few more of these reporting stations, but again, in between these, still thousands of people without power. The good news is temperatures are not going to be overly warm either. So clear skies, temperatures in the 60s and 70s. Do expect by tonight, though, going to start to turn a little chilly. In fact, by about 8 to 9 o'clock, starting to see some 50s. And by tomorrow morning, upper 40s for just about everybody except for right along the Grand Strand. I'll let you know how long the sunny weather continues. We'll look at your 7-day forecast. That's here in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Robert. Well, without power and some roads impassable, schools across our area are out. We have a list of cancellations on WMBFnews.com. Find it by clicking the Hurricane Matthew box on the homepage. And with school out, high school football players can't practice. Dan Fanning will continue our team coverage back in 90 seconds to explain the schedule at this point. Stay with us.
After Hurricane Matthew, the high school football slate this Friday may be put on hold as well. You've probably seen the pictures from the backyard in Conway. The flooding has receded once again this year. The ground is still wet, but should still be playable by week's end. As for local teams, it looks like they won't be able to play for a second week in a row. All the school districts in the Grand Strand and PD have canceled classes for Tuesday, with several, including Horry, Marion, and Dillon County schools not having classes till Thursday. Because no class, no practices as well. Teams like Lakeview and Myrtle Beach won't be able to practice till Thursday, giving them only one day to prepare for a Friday game. Talking with Seahawk head coach Mickey Wilson earlier today, he said his players haven't been able to hit the practice field since last Monday. It's now a wait-and-see approach for teams throughout the area. Stay with WMBF News throughout the rest of the week as we should know more about the status of Friday night's games. Reporting from Conway High School, Dan Fanning, WMBF News.
All right, Dan, thank you. Hurricane Matthew may be gone, but left our area with plenty of work to do. Next at 6, how the people who weathered the storm are responding. Plus, Jamie is live to explain the risk we still face because of river flooding.
Now, WMBF News First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jamie Arnold.
And welcome back once again to the banks of the Waccamaw River. This is right off Riverside Drive in Conway, where the Waccamaw continues to very slowly rise. The crest now looking to arrive as we head towards later this week, probably Thursday or Friday, cresting very near where we were last October. Not the case, though, up in Longs, where it's likely to eclipse last October and also eclipse Hurricane Floyd levels back in 1999. And you can see the scene in the water. The difference between last year and this year, though, is the overlap of the flooding and the wind damage left behind by Matthew's strong winds, uprooted trees laying in the flood waters from the Waccamaw River. And again, the crest coming later this week. Let's talk about the other rivers, the other big rivers we have around here, including the Little Petey River at Galavant's Ferry. It is already in major flood stage, and it is still rising steadily. 15.4 feet is the record crest now on the way, near record crest as we head towards Tuesday. Just below the record, however, still some amazing statistics coming out of the Little Petey River. This is the second highest crest on record. It's 3 feet above the crest we saw with Hurricane Floyd, and will be the highest along the Little Petey River since 1928. So for most folks there along the Little Petey River, it'll be the highest river levels they have ever seen, especially considering that crest back in 1928. The good news is the weather this time is cooperating. The dry weather that has moved in on the backside of Matthew looks to stick around. We'll send it back into the studio with Robert Whitehurst with a look at a much quieter and drier forecast. Robert?
And that's exactly what we need. You notice the radar extremely quiet across the Carolinas. In fact, high pressure will continue to build in. That's going to keep the rain risk extremely low through the end of the week. You notice the wind still a bit stronger off the coast. We've seen some gusts today upwards of 15 miles per hour right along the Grand Strand. They're starting to weaken, though, across the Carolinas. As that builds in, that will reduce that. So that is good news as well for the recovery efforts. Let's talk about the rain risk. Sitting at 0%. We saw the sunny skies today. Expect that to continue all the way through the weekend. In fact, the next chance of rain, maybe not until early next week. So another 6 to 7 days down the road. A lot of sunny skies. And another piece of good news, talked about this the last couple of days, is cooler temperatures moving in. So for the people that don't have power, at least we're not dealing with temperatures in the upper 80s and 90s. Upper 60s near 70 along the Grand Strand tomorrow. It is going to be a bit chilly tonight, so if you are opening the windows, let some cool air in, know that it could turn pretty chilly tonight. Lower 50s along the Grand Strand, upper 40s from about Carolina Forest into the west, maybe some middle 40s into the border belt. So it will be a little cool in the morning. Let me see where we're headed, though. A lot of sunny skies is going towards the afternoon. 70s tomorrow, and I think we'll keep those afternoons in the 70s all the way through the end of the week.
Okay, Robert, thank you. Up and down the Grand Strand, there are piles of debris. Homeowners really just trying to make sense of the damage Matthew left behind. Lisa Greshey caught up with many of them in Myrtle Beach.
I'm here on Haskell Circle where you can see this homeowner is truly hacking away at this tree, trying to clear as much of it as he can, but certainly has a ways to go. This tree snapped at the base and fell across the front yard, missing his car by a foot and front porch by inches. While he is making progress, like many others, he has a long way to go right now. So many are simply thankful the trees didn't fall in the wrong way and onto their homes. A matter of feet, truly making all of the difference in many neighborhoods. Reporting in Myrtle Beach, Lisa Greshey, WMBF News.
Well, as neighbors try to recover from Hurricane Matthew, more damage in the storm's aftermath hit some residents in the PD region. People forced from their homes when floodwaters devastated Marion and Florence counties. Governor Nikki Haley flew above Marion and Florence counties today to see houses and buildings destroyed. 150 people were rescued from the third floor of the Nichols Town Hall building. People on rooftops waiting for first responders. The governor compared it to the 1,000-year flood the state experienced last year, expressing how unfortunate it is that some areas are hit again after recovering from that flood.
And to see it all go back to that, it was devastating. I mean, really looking in that whole Nichols, Mullins area going into Florence and looking at Marion counties. I mean, you're looking at places that got devastation, more flooding in the Marion side, but, you know, Florence, you saw a lot of trees down. We're seeing an unprecedented amount of damage.
Well, the governor has requested an expedited major disaster declaration from the president. Meanwhile, some places still closed as they recover from Matthew. They are Hilton Head Island, Hunting Island, and Fripp Island. Shelters could be opening on Hilton Head as early as tomorrow.
The Murrells Inlet Marsh Walk, Jetty View Walk, and all Georgetown County maintained beach accesses in Litchfield and Garden City are closed until further notice. This is video from Dead Dog Saloon. They posted it to Facebook earlier today. Georgetown County says the area received damage during that storm. County teams will work over the next several days to fully assess the damage. There should be caution tape in places that are closed, but if the tape is removed, it does not mean that area is reopened. The county says it will announce when different attractions are deemed safe. The Facebook page for the Marsh Walk did post earlier today that hurricane cleanup is almost done and that most restaurants are open in some capacity. Well, there are several communities in the Grand Strand and the PD under boil water advisories following Hurricane Matthew. According to information from the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control, these areas are impacted. They include the city of Florence for customers who experienced a complete loss of water pressure, the Georgetown County Water Sewer District at Waccamaw Neck, Plantersville, and Red Hill, the city of Marion, Kingstree, Andrews, the Rock Bluff subdivision, and the peninsula at Inlet Point. Remember, if a boil water advisory is issued, it means that the water supply may be contaminated. If you have any questions, check with your local government, and we'll keep this information updated on WMBFnews.com too. And this is a good reminder to download the WMBF News app. We send all of that info out as breaking news, as an alert a few hours ago, and we will alert you to any other advisories as soon as we learn about them. That app, of course, free for Android and Apple devices. Well, tonight we are live in Conway, where the Waccamaw River is forecast to rise. We're going to check in one more time with Chief Meteorologist Jamie Arnold just 3 minutes from now.
We've got breaking news for you right now. Damage assessment teams are working in Florence County. At this point, they have found 422 homes with minor damage, 42 with major damage, and 15 are destroyed. Damage is estimated at just under $8 million. The county is still working on figuring out what happened to roads and bridges. The damage assessment is expected to be complete Wednesday.
And yeah, Griselle, once again here live along Riverside Drive, the Waccamaw River back into major flood stage almost a year to the day that we were dealing with this last year. Not only, though, this year are we dealing with the flooding, we're dealing with the downed trees and the power lines heading into another dark night all across our area. You can see folks continuing to come and go here. Some hardy folks deciding to ride it out. Others deciding not to stick around here as that flooding continues in Conway. And it's not just here. The flooding widespread across our area. The Little Petey River in Gallivan's Ferry forecast now to reach levels that we haven't seen since 1928. The severe issues also continuing across the Lumber River in Lumberton. It's above the record crest right now and will continue to climb 4 feet above record flood stage by the time we work our way towards the end of the week. By Thursday and Friday, coverage continues on WMBFnews.com.